Hello friends and neighbors. If you are watching this video, we are so excited for you to be in our little chunk of the universe. This video and several others we will be posting will be a part of a family series we are doing at Plymouth Park Baptist Church in our student ministry. If you enjoy this video, please share it to the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, wherever you do your business. We would love for the word to be spread there as well. There will also be in the description below, there will be links to my other two channels. Please enjoy this video. We are so excited for you to be here. My name is Evan. Enjoy. A lot of text tonight, a lot of verses. So I'm not going to ask that you turn to those necessarily, but I will ask that if you are going to take notes, please do so. It will benefit you, I swear. I have legitimate things to say. So, let's talk. Last week, we started off our family series. If you didn't know, we were talking about what is a family? What does that mean? Today, we're going to talk about specifically what it means to be a godly child and a godly parent. Mostly, we're going to focus on child because you guys are not parents yet. But we are going to focus on that a little bit. So what exactly does it mean to be a godly parent? Or a godly child? Godly child. Well, it says it, I think, most famously in Exodus 20, verse 12. You guys will know this if you've ever read the Bible at all. It says, "Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord your God gives you." So again, if you've ever read the Bible at any point, you'll know that this is one of the 10 commandments. It's essentially 10 rules, big, giant rules that God said, these are the ones you need to follow. You need to follow all of them, but these are particular ones. And if we're being honest, I'd say, if you're a teenager in this room, if we're being honest, and I'm still technically a teenager, let me say that. 6 months. 6 months. 6 months. If we're honest, this is probably the commandment that we're like, yeesh, I really didn't wish I had to do that. I don't like that because my parents are dumb for some reason. I don't like what they have to say. Because let's be honest, if the Bible tells us to honor somebody, a human being, it's automatically hard because human beings are not perfect. And human beings will do things that are not nice to us, and they'll do things that are just not nice or right in general. So it automatically makes it hard for us to want to honor anybody. And then when it comes to our parents, I mean, they tell us what to do, so automatic. So that's what I want to focus on first. I want to focus on several reasons why we don't want to necessarily honor our parents and why we don't necessarily want to obey our parents, maybe. I'm just going to focus on quickly several reasons. The first one is really dumb, but we think it. We think we know better. We think, listen, we have a natural tendency as human beings to be like, well, I know better than that person, or I'm smarter than that person. And when it comes to our parents, I think, they come up and say stuff, ridiculous stuff like, listen, child of mine, this party you're going to go to, I don't know, I think it has, like, among other things, like drugs and alcohol and sex. I just don't think you should do that. I just don't think you should go to that party. We start to freak out like, well, obviously you do not love me, you do not want me to have fun. Because if you had any shred of common sense, if I came up to you and told you, this party is going to have, again, among other things, alcohol, drugs, sex, it's going to be very bad, you'd be like, Evan, you know what, you're right. I shouldn't go to that party. That's really dumb. But when our parents come up to us and say stuff like that, they're like, well, we're like, okay. We go into like knee-jerk Chuck Norris mode. Like, well, again, you obviously don't love me. Or you obviously don't want me to have fun. And let me tell you why I think this is. Really easy answer. Today's culture is telling you guys through everything that your parents are like these devilish gargoyles that are walking around and all they do is like trying to make sure you have like the least amount of fun ever. And I'll tell you right now, it's not true. Proverbs chapter 1, actually, 8 through 9 says, "Hear, my son, your father's instructions, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Indeed, they are a graceful wreath to your head and ornaments around your neck." This one is really easy for me to sort of bring out, guys, because let's be honest, we don't know better than our parents. We may think we know, but we really don't. So ultimately, it is in our best interest to honor and obey our parents. The second one isn't as obvious, though. The second one is a little bit harder for me to explain. The second reason we often don't want to do things our parents say is because we see our parents make mistakes. And if you were following my original line, human beings in general are not perfect. So if my mom were to come up to me and tell me, "Listen, don't raise your voice to me, don't talk back to me, or don't let your emotions control you," I'd be like, "Okay, that makes perfect sense, Mom. You're absolutely right, I shouldn't do that." And then 5 minutes later, she does all three of those things. What is my automatic response going to be? Double standard? I think so. So that's a hard one, guys. That's a hard one because I can see why we would think, okay, our parents are doing these things and they yell at me and they overreact to things just like I do. So why should I do those things? Why should I honor and respect somebody that is doing wrong things when they're telling me to do right things? Let me share with you Colossians 3:20. Because ultimately, the reason we honor and respect our parents, first and foremost, is not inherently because they deserve it. At least it shouldn't be. The reason we honor and respect our parents is because God says to. In Colossians 3:20, it says, "Children, be obedient to your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord." Ultimately, this verse sums it up. It just says, obey your parents. But it even says that obeying your parents pleases God. So not only is it commanded, but it actually makes God happy when we do these things. And God doesn't make mistakes. All right? So we've got two. We've got two sort of easy ones. Our parents make mistakes. Okay, we should still honor our parents. That's fine. Or we think we know better. That's dumb because we don't. The third one, though, is a little bit more difficult, and I need to spend a little bit of time on this, I think. Because I know there are some people in this room, and I know there are some people you know. So if you're ever talking about what I'm saying tonight, there are going to be people that are going to be like this. They're going to hear what I'm saying. Maybe people in this room, there may be people out there you're going to talk to who are going to be like cringing at the idea of obeying their parents and honoring their parents. It may not be that way for you, but it is that way for some people because by some circumstance and by something that happened, one of or both of your parents or somebody's parents have specifically wounded them. Whether that be because they left, they just thought it wasn't worth it anymore, or among lots of other things. And I want to be able to say this to anybody in this room who's ever had to deal with that. But also, if you have not, let me say this. While I hope it never does, people are people, and people can make decisions that are totally not of God and decide to do things that are wrong and just shouldn't be done. So I want you guys to hold on to this. If, again, I hope it never happens to anybody in this room, but if it does, I want you guys to keep this in mind. No matter, and I want you guys to hear this, no matter what anybody does, no matter what your parents do, no matter how they fail, how great they are, how terrible they are, there is a Father in heaven who you have. If you have made that decision to follow him, there is a Father in heaven who does not abandon those he loves. He does not abuse in any way those he loves. He does not run away. He provides. He is there. So let me offer that as a little bit of just something to put in that situation. That being said, if God is all those things and more, the same God who is all those things is also the same God who says, listen, this is my command to you, that you obey and honor your parents. And let me say this as well, because God's word does not change, and God does not change. But let me say this. I'm not going to stand up here and say that, oh, if you're in, this terrible situation, you should just stay there because the Bible says so. It doesn't say that. It says to honor and obey your parents. It does not say stay in a situation that is toxic or that is evil or anything like that. So with all those in mind, let me say this. I think we have to come to much of the same conclusion, and this is not new, guys. This is obvious. You guys know this. Ultimately, no matter what your parents really say or do, the biblical command in these passages remains the same. And it says so in Ephesians 6, 1 through 3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. And let me mention, this is just a freebie. Let me just mention this. This is going to be funny, hopefully. If my parents were to come up to me and tell me this, well, actually, let me ask this. This is funny. Is there ever a reason that you guys can think of that you can say, okay, maybe it's not the best thing to do what my parents are telling me to do? Do you guys think of any reason why that might not be a thing? Let me ask this. If my parents come up to me and say, listen, Evan, I love you. There's this guy that's really ticking me off. I need you to go kill him. Automatic red flags should go up in my head because, why?
What they're family. You disobey them.
To break some of the commandment.
Oh, there's another commandment that says don't murder. That's funny. So just as a freebie, let me throw this in there. If your parents tell you to do something that is entirely against the Word of God, I'm going to say this. You shouldn't outright tell them, I'm sorry, that's against the Word of God. You can just go away. But let me say this. If the Bible tells you to obey and honor your parents should not be able to then tell you to do something that is against the Bible that told you to obey your parents. Okay, so if the Bible tells you to obey your parents should not be able to tell you to do something that is against the Bible that told you to obey your parents. It's really obvious. If the Bible says not to do something, your parents should not be able to tell you to do something if the Bible told you to obey your parents.
I get it.
I've made it very clear. I've said it like 5 times. Anyway.
Your parents are given the Bible.
So obviously, if your parents tell you to kill somebody, don't do it. That's really dumb. And don't steal money. Your parents tell you don't steal money. That's dumb too. Don't do that. Because the Bible says don't steal. Also says don't steal. I read that the other day. I stopped stealing stuff then. Gosh, where are we? All right. So that was really quick, really obvious. You should really obey your parents, guys. You should really honor your parents. But let me move on a little bit. But let me say this first. Ultimately, guys, we're going to give an account to God someday for what we did and didn't do, not what our parents did or didn't do. I could have the worst parent possible, but how I respond to their terribleness is still on me. It always is. How I react to things, how I do things is always on me. It's always on you guys. All right, so we're responsible for ourselves, not what our parents do. So briefly, I want to talk about parents as well, even though you guys are not parents. I want to talk about sort of what the role is of parents in the Bible, what God says to do. So yeah, I'm just going to run through these passages real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Ephesians 6-4 says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger." This is a really important verse. "But bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." Very straightforward. Parents, biblically, are called to bring their children up in God. They are called to teach their children about God. Another thing they're called to do is talk to their children about God, have conversations. Deuteronomy 6, verses 6-7. "These words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your sons. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up." All that's saying, guys, Moses is telling the people of Israel, you've got children. I'm giving you a bunch of really practical commands from God. Talk to them about it. Don't just assume they're going to know. Talk to them about me. That'd be God, not Moses. God's saying, talk to them about me. Tell them how great I am. Tell them how amazing I am. All right, so we have building up in the Lord, and we have having dialogue. The last aspect I want to focus on, and if you know Bob Harper, one of the pastors here, he actually gave me this verse. I already had it in my notes, but he gave it to me again. So it affirmed that it was a good verse. In Proverbs 29:15-17, it talks about discipline. Now, if you're anybody in this room, you're like, "Evan, you're insane. Discipline is not good. My parents should discipline me less, actually. I feel like they shouldn't take away my phone when I do something stupid. I feel like they should actually let me off the hook. Because I'm actually a good person. I just choose to do wrong things." Nobody got it? Okay. Proverbs 29:15. "The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child who gets his own way brings shame to his mother." So that last sentence I just spoke. Dead. Verse 17, "Correct your son, and he will give you comfort. He will also delight your soul." Now, let me say this. Again, you guys are still thinking discipline is the devil. I don't want my parents to do anything. I don't want my parents to do anything to me. I want to get away with everything. It's like, yeah, me too. I want to get away with everything, but I don't because my parents were good parents. Let me ask this. Have you ever met somebody that's like really super entitled? It's like everything is about me. Everything is about me getting what I want. Stop shoving me. That's so mean. I think I don't see things. There's like only 20 of you here. Let me say this. Have you ever met a really entitled person and they're like, the world revolves around me? Anna knows what I'm talking about. Don't you just want to smack them? I'm sorry, that was... we a lot of times think discipline is bad. But let me say this, if I'm a 3-year-old and I'm going over to my little brother, I don't have a little brother, but if I had a little brother and I was 3, and I go over and I just start destroying his toys. First of all, he's like 1, he's not going to know, so it's like, man, I'm getting away with everything. And my parents, they see it, they're like, man, that is really unfortunate. You think, man, those are the dumbest parents ever. It's like, my parents are just the worst. Think about it in you guys' context. If you guys do something that is wrong, now you guys really know it's wrong. I mean, you guys are a little bit smarter than a 3-year-old. And your parents see what you're doing and you're like, man, that's so unfortunate that they're doing something wrong. Honey, can we watch Netflix? I'm just saying, it's bad if your parents look at what you're doing and they say, we're just not going to do anything about it. It says right here, correct your son. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child who gets his own way brings shame to his mother. That's pretty harsh, all right? So let me leave you with that as well. Discipline is good. It may not feel like it, but it's teaching you something. I can say that because I have been disciplined before. I have had things taken away. I have had things done to me. I have had just consequences, and they're good. They don't feel good, but they are. All right. Let me say this. I got about 10 minutes left. I can totally do this in 10 minutes, probably. But I want to try at the end of this really to give you guys practical advice. So what we know so far, children are called to obey, honor, and love their parents. Obvious. Parents are called to raise their children up in the Lord. They're called to talk to their children about God. They're called to discipline their child when they run off and start destroying their brother's toys. That's what parents are called to do. But at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, Evan, what do I do with this? You're saying a lot of information. I want to know how to apply this to me. I want to try and find middle ground with this because like marriage, people will a lot of times talk about marriage. It's like, oh yeah, the woman has greater responsibility. She should be the one who's like serving her husband and doing all that. And no, wait, the husband should be the one. He should be the one loving her and she just gets waited on hand and foot. It's the same thing with a parent and child. A lot of times people will say, well, children, they don't know any better. It's the parents. The parents need to be responsible and they need to do what they... No, children need to respect their parents. Otherwise, they don't get anything. So people will ask the question, who has the greater responsibility? What do you guys think? Who has the greater... Does the child have the greater responsibility to obey the Bible, or does the parent have?
It's a trick question. Both, yeah.
It is totally a trick question. Because you know what I want to say to people who ask that question? Why are you stupid? That's not what I want to say. Don't say that. Because really, that's one of the dumbest questions I've ever heard. Really. Because you know what this question does? Guys up here. Guys up here. Guys up here. Guys up here. Guy up here. Guy. Okay. You know what this question does? It creates a sense of entitlement. And the children are like, well, the parents just, they just have it easy. The parents get to have all the fun. They get to go to the R-rated movies. They get to go to all that stuff. They get to have fun. And the parents are over here doing the bills like, kids are so fun. They don't have to do anything. Kids don't have any responsibilities. And it's like, it makes people hate each other. You know why there are so many children who hate their parents? Because their parents were probably sorry parents, or they were entitled because of stupid questions like this. And then vice versa, parents who think their children are idiots and then they kick them out of the house at 18. Because people somehow got in their head that one side of a relationship somehow has more of an obligation to fulfill that side of the relationship. If I can get you guys to really hear one thing tonight. One of the things that is missing in all families, in my opinion, because all families do this, one thing that's missing in all families is a strong sense of mutual understanding. What I mean by that is when your mom or dad comes home from a long day's work and you're like, Mom, why are you doing this stupid thing that I think is dumb? Or when parents see their children come home from a long day of school and extracurricular stuff and sports, and they're worn out and they just want to be left alone. The parents are like, why are you so lazy? Why are you sleeping? Why are you doing this? See, you guys get it. But let me say this. Okay, this is the point. Just enough. Bring it back. Bring it back. The biggest thing that's missing, guys, is we think that us as teenagers, we have it worse. We have school. We have sports. I never did sports. We have school. I was homeschooled, so just forget about me. I'm not. We have school, we have all this stuff, and we're like, we have it hard. And then parents are over here, they're having to pay bills, they're having to do all this stuff, they're having to take care of you. So what we need to get at, guys, I think, and I'm actually going to share a little bit of a story here just to sort of wrap this up. If you've ever heard the golden rule, what's the golden rule? Where do you think that came from? The Bible. Two places actually, Matthew 7:12 and Luke 6:31, both say it. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story. And this really isn't an extravagant story, but I want to tell it anyway. So me and my dad, we were at a gas station. It was Quick Trip. I think we were getting like drinks or something. And I think we were getting gas, and we were in this sort of argument. I think my dad was tired. I was 8. So I was the equivalent of an adult being tired all the time. So we were in this sort of like argument, and I was frustrating him so much, and he was frustrating me for some reason, at least in my mind. I was being impressed. And my dad finally, I must have been really annoying at 8. Like all of us. And he says to me something to the degree of just be quiet. Stop talking. And I was like, sir, no. I went straight up bonquiqui on that. I'm like, security. No, okay. Okay, let me say this. I overreacted, and I was like, no, you be quiet at 8. Instant friction, because I shouldn't have said that. Let's be honest. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have been like, Dad, you're stupid. You be quiet. And so he immediately snuffs it out, like discipline. He does it. He's like, listen, kid. You should not have said that. But then something amazing happened. Something amazing happened. I want you guys to get this. Because this really did nothing for me and my dad's relationship. We love each other. This really didn't affect anything. But looking back on it now, I can see what God was doing. My dad realizes to himself, he says, listen, son, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have reacted that way. You shouldn't have spoken to me like that. But then he realizes in his head, you know what? You know what, Evan? I shouldn't have said that either. And then really we went on our way and nothing really came of it. Let me say this. We can get so caught up in, okay, I'm the parent, you have to obey me. Oh, but I'm a child, you should love me first. No, you should respect me first, and then I'll love you. Or you should, it doesn't work. So I want you guys to look at this. A bunch of information I gave you, a bunch of funny jokes I told, I hope, I don't know. I want you guys to see this because your parents, no matter how stupid you think they are, no matter how frustrated they make you, because you frustrate them, let me just say that, you frustrate the life out of them. No matter how much you think they're dumb or you think they don't know what they're talking about, they have it just as bad as you. We all live on earth where people are mean and people are abusive and they don't like us and they have work, you have school, you have peer pressure, they have peer pressure. We all have it bad. So if I could say one thing about being a godly child, respect that your parents know what they're talking about, that they love you, and that they go through the same things you do. Are we good? All right, let me pray. God, I thank you for these people, these youth. I love them. I love that I get to come up here and crack jokes. I mean, that's good. That's really good. But I'm glad I get to come up and share your word with them. Stuff they may not have even considered, and through you working, I get to speak that to them. That's amazing. God, and I thank you. I thank you for this building that we are in. I thank you for the chairs we sit in, which we take for granted. And I thank you so much for our parents that we also take for granted. I pray in each one of these kids there would be a sense of respect and honor and mutual understanding between their parent and them. They would realize that their parents had it hard. Doesn't mean they don't. Doesn't mean they don't have it hard. But their parents have it hard too. And the sooner we can get to a place of understanding, the sooner we are going to slowly grow as children, as parents. I thank you, God, so much for what you do and what you're going to do.